Thanks for staying on. South Africa is in the grip of a deepening unemployment crisis, with more companies announcing plans to retrench more workers, with one of the highest official jobless rates in the world, affecting millions of lives and threatening the nation's social and economic stability. And of course, to add to that, the pressure to find solutions is immense. However, this crisis is increasingly characterized by counterproductive and pervasive blame game, where various stakeholders point fingers at each other instead of forging a cohesive path forward. Let's discuss this now, joined in the studio by SAFTU General Secretary Zwelinzima Vavi. On the line, COSATU's Zanele Sabela. And in a moment, we'll have Dr. Kwezi Mabasa from the Center for Researching Education and Labor. He will be joining as the conversation continues, we are hoping. But nonetheless, we'll continue with you who are already on. Dr. Vavi, good to have you, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Zanele.
Zanele, good afternoon to you too. Thank you very much for coming on.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having us.
Let's begin here. I mean, we've been having this conversation for decades, if not more, right? And every time it comes down almost to the same thing. But if you look beneath the numbers and the headlines, there are several powerful shifts that are happening not just in South Africa, they are happening the world over. In fact, the unemployment numbers have been bad, particularly in the world over since the pandemic. So South Africa is not really an exception. So what are the forces that are shaping that kind of landscape globally and then bringing it to South Africa?
Well, other countries have recovered. They've recovered from the 2008 massive, some people argue, biggest world over economic crisis. They've recovered from the 2019 biggest pandemic to have visited the world. And many countries, in particular of the developed nations, are down to the single figures in terms of their unemployment rate. We are backing the trend in South Africa. And I think it will not be good to hide behind the international crisis of capitalism or the pandemics. We have to face our own reality. Yeah. The reality, number one, is that we have become the country with the highest levels of unemployment amongst industrialized and industrializing nations. Okay. And we have been holding that title for a good number of years before the COVID. We are the country with the highest youth unemployment in the whole world, according to the ILO and every other study. Yeah. And we've been holding that title for many years, since the dawn of democracy. The reality is that we have halved the capacity to manufacture goods in South Africa between 1994 and to date. That trend would have started even earlier in 1990. Whereas the manufacturing sector used to contribute between 20 to 22% to the GDP, it is now down to 11, 12%, somewhere there. Yeah. Meaning that we have an idling industrial capacity. Others say it's sitting around 22, 23%. Others put that number even higher, meaning that we are not manufacturing to consume the goods that we are manufacturing. We increasingly relying on finished goods coming from mainly China these days, but everywhere else in the world. We continue to export our raw minerals unprocessed. We don't build secondary industries in South Africa.
Interesting that you raised that, because Asia is looked at as one of the biggest regions in terms of contribution to the labor force. So they are employing more than...
because we are exporting jobs to China and to other Asian countries, including India. Yeah. They bring back to our country finished products, and we've been stuck to that structure since the days of colonial and apartheid. Yeah. This is beneficial to our leaders' families who are in the coal industry, who have adopted a short-termist approach to the economy. As long as the benefits are still very good at this moment, they don't care about the long-term effect of this, what we call the old, not just neoliberal, but it's actually the colonial structure of the economy. We didn't change it. We're still maintaining it as it is. The results, we're going to come back to speak about it.
Let's bring Zanele into this. From COSATU's point of view, what is shaping this particular landscape? I mean, I've given you the number. We take care of corruption. We fix the NPA. We fix the police. We get those things going. We fix municipalities, and we get that going. This picture will begin to turn around.
If we fix the structure of the economy, if we stop this extravism, meaning extracting raw minerals and exporting it to other countries to create jobs elsewhere, and only for us to receive finished products, if we were to focus on re-industrializing and strengthening the manufacturing sector to withstand today's challenges, that included the introduction of the fourth industrial
program. That the last time I looked at about 100 industrialists. I don't know where it's sitting today, but this was like probably 2 years ago when I heard that.
This is how we started the crisis. In 1994, instead of prioritizing industrial policy, we prioritized the reduction of the tariffs that were protecting our sectors, manufacturing sector in the main. And the ministers at that time said, welcome South Africa to the chilly winds of international competition. They dropped the levels of tariffs even faster than what was required by the World Trade Organization.
Is that why we had small-scale steel makers? Which,
absolutely, Zanele was spot on. And then it was only around after 2009 did South Africa develop an industrial policy, the EPAP, for the first time, 15, 20 years late. And then we didn't support it with a rethought fiscal and monetary policies. So this supposedly progressive industrial policy became a slave to this ultra-conservative fiscal and monetary policy that was driven by the austerity programs that robbed the country.
Simple English, you didn't give it money.
We didn't give it money, so it became a white elephant policy within the state that have no real support, and it failed. And this is the consequences. Now let me just look at the consequences in addition to what Zanele is saying. Daybreak, which is supported by IPC money, which is actually workers' money,
poultry company.
It is going to lose 2,200 jobs unless the Minister of Trade and Industry and Competition and Minister of Employment and Labor intervenes. The Coca-Cola in East London have announced that it is closing down that plant. Zanele have already spoken about ArcelorMittal and what it's going to mean in terms of the downstream industry. Glencore and Samanco have announced that they are going to cut off 3,000 jobs. We know about Goodyear, which is closing down, and 900 workers are going to be forced to join the queue of 12.6 million people who are unemployed. Ford, in Tshwane, Pretoria, has announced that it is retrenching 474. SAB has been slaughtering workers for the past 5 years. Over 1,500 workers have been slaughtered, and recently it wants to slaughter another 233 jobs. The South African Post Office slaughtered 4,000 jobs at the beginning of this year. There are only 4,000 other workers left there. And remember that before privatization, commercialization, there were 61 to 67,000 jobs in the post office. Transnet is saying it is going to, in fact, it is embarking on the voluntary retrenchment packages. The SAB is saying that it is going to look at the direction of workers. Denel says the retrenchment has become an option. Everybody, every day, we are waking up to a new announcement.
Yeah. But let's talk about this. There is this platform called NEDLAC, where everybody's supposed to sit around the table. Yourselves, I know you were added lately onto that list. The business, the politicians come around and say, look at these numbers. Look at all these people that are going to lose their jobs. Can we halt this? Because you guys are the ones who are owning the companies. Let's fix this before these people are out of work.
I wish that it was that simple.
Let's take a break. We'll come back after. Back with you on the Newsfeed PM. Thanks for staying on. Some 300,000 jobs are said to be lost, at least from the latest statistics from the South Africa's Quarterly Labour Force Survey, revealing 291,000 jobs in the first quarter of 2025 would have been lost. So you are counting even more potential jobs that are going to be lost in a variety of sectors, from poultry to steel to automobile, across the board, to beverages, across the board. How are business leaders responding to this at NEDLAC is what I want to
Unfortunately, well, the point that I have always complained about, even in my days in COSAT, is that their business is increasingly sending the most junior people it can find to NEDLAC. And that's why you have its leader as a black executive somewhere. The real captains of industry are not interested in a discussion. The real captains of industry are idling somewhere in Stellenbosch or between Stellenbosch, London, New York, and guaranteeing the levels of their profits in South Africa. And the call that we want to make is that surely NEDLAC as a supreme structure to coordinate dialogue between these class forces ought to improve its workings. Yes. It can't continue as if this is not the figures we are talking about.
So, how do we redesign this conversation? How, with your alliance partner concessions to fix the railways, so they'll be in by 2026, I believe so. So they'll take care of that. They'll fix the roads. So some of the cargo will move from the roads and will get onto the railway. They'll tell you that we've stopped the leakage, at least for now, at Eskom. It's working. Yesterday we were told we are not going to have load shedding, or the probability of load shedding is none. This summer, they are doing stuff to fix that. They are reinvesting into the network infrastructure. So they'll say, we are doing those things.
Let me make this appeal. We need a new revolution in South Africa. And that revolution cannot be driven by a fragmented trade union movement that has weakened itself so terribly. We need unity within SAFTU. We need to drop all prejudices against one another and focus on what matters to the workers the most. We need unity between SAFTU, COSATU, FEDUSA, NACTU. We need unity between the South African trade union movement with the rest of the working class organizing in our communities, guided by one slogan: organize or starve. All symbols put forward. Don't continue to moan. Fight back against what is unfolding in the country. We are our own worst enemies at this particular juncture. We're running up and down here, putting on the table the most brilliant suggestions and policy alternatives you can imagine. The crisis is that we do not have the power to force the state and the employers of this country to listen to us, because we have allowed ourselves to be divided by the other side.
Right. And unlike the taxi industry, those guys didn't know how to force government to listen.
We don't have that power anymore. We lost that power, and all together, and we need to rebuild. And we can only rebuild if the leadership of the trade union movement here can accept that there is just no other alternative except unity and strengthening the unity of the trade union and the rest of the working class. Without that, we are going to be here to say this and this ought to be happening. Nobody is going to listen. We will continue to just
hold meetings
putting
and hold
a small
conferences
die on the Indian Ocean and hope that we can change the color. Nothing is going to change until we go back to the streets and mobilize to force the government to listen and to force the employers of this country to listen. That's what I want to say and to communicate at this moment.
Let's give it a much appreciated SAFTU's General Secretary, Zwelinzima Vavi, as well, the spokesperson for COSATU, Sabela.